Hello everyone, I am the lead developer for the LegendSheet add-on for Google Sheets, and I'm doing a tutorial series for the functionalities that we have inside this LegendSheet add-on. So today we're going to go over how to do unit conversions, dimensional analysis, and some of the operations that require you to use units. So you don't crash your, Mars climate orbiter or whatever you're trying to build. So let's just get started here. And the first thing I'll mention is that Google Sheets does have a built-in conversion function called convert. And let's look at that. So I can convert 1 mile to yards, and I get 1,760 yards, which is about right. I have a few more other test conversions up here, and let's see if it can do those. Uh, 4 out of 5. That's not bad. Didn't quite get milliliters to cups. That's unfortunate because that's should be a valid unit conversion, correct? Um, so yeah. Anyway, so it does provide some functionality, and so you might be asking, well, uh, if that covers 90% of my use cases, um, then why do I need this add-in? And maybe it does cover all your use cases. Maybe you don't need the LegendSheet unit functionality. What LegendSheet unit functionalities do provide is more units, and also the ability to use compound units. So uh, acre foot. We're going to try something with acre feet later in the video, or uh, units to any power. So if you wanted to use meters to the fourth, you could use that instead of just meters to the third. I don't know what that physically means, but you could use it. Um, and let's get into how to use the legend sheet version of the same thing. So any legend sheet custom function starts off with the ls underscore, and then the function we're looking for is called q for quantity convert. And so we want to convert this, and we select the whole thing, the 1 and the mile as a range, and then the value we want to convert it to. There we go. So we get the same answer. Now there are a few differences between the Legend Sheet units and the Google Sheets units, and they're not completely one-to-one compatible. So the first thing to note is that unit prefixes require you to put brackets around them. So there's two reasons for this. The first is that there can actually be collisions if you have a unit and a prefix that's kind of just sitting next to it. There are units that could be that, and so then unit sheet would have to come back or legend sheet would have to come back and ask you, well, what unit did you really mean? And so to avoid that, we use the explicit style of adding prefixes to units. The second is just computational. It takes a lot more computational power to search through all the possible permutations of units. If you just mark them explicitly, it can find them really quick, and then your big sheets won't take so long to convert or to calculate. So that's one thing. Another thing that I'm going to point out is that some of the unit names have changed. So in Legend Sheet, this unit is a farad, which is a unit of capacitance, and this is a coulomb, which is a unit of electrical charge. So we can actually convert those, and I'll just go ahead and pull this down and show you that we get an error, and it says cannot convert units that are not alike, which makes sense, right? You can't convert farads to coulombs. It doesn't make any sense. So I think the proper way to do this is to put a degree in front of it, right? So that the degrees units have degree in front of them in unit sheet. And maybe we're curious, what are all the units that we can use what are all their equivalents in the regular standard vanilla Google Sheets. And so let's just go ahead and open up the Legend Sheet toolbar here by pressing Start. And what we're going to see is the tool come up, and let's look for reference. And right here we have Unit Reference Sheet. So let's go ahead and generate a unit reference sheet in Unit Reference and see what that does. Okay, it's creating a unit reference sheet for us. Great, let's have a look. So we have prefixes. So I mentioned that we can use prefixes with any unit. Here they are, and here's their modifying value. And then we also have all the units available. And so we can see a lot of these are the same as the Google Sheets unit. Kilogram is the one exception to the bracket rule, since it is a base SI base unit. But that is the one exception to the prefix in brackets rule. Grams, a lot of them are exactly the same. But then we're going to notice we have, okay, here's our first one that's NA. So league. We already, we can't convert that to anything using Google Sheets. Survey foot, which is kind of a slightly different definition of the foot. Astronomical units are not available in Google Sheets. A stellar day, which is just the amount of rotation of the Earth, not the standard definition of a day, which is 24 hours. And what else have we got? The gravitational constant is in here for standard gravity, which is a handy one to have. What else have we got? Let's see. Towards the bottom here we have bytes, bits, and informational units that are not supported. Some of them are supported, but not all of them are supported by Google Sheets. Baud rate. Here's a whole bunch of EM units that are not supported by Google Sheets. So luminous intensity, which is not supported, and rotational units, which are not supported. So as we can see, we just have a whole lot more units available to us in Legend Sheet than we do have with Google Sheets, and a lot of them are incredibly useful, especially for engineering, and they just kind of never made the cut for the Google Sheets. So maybe I've started to convince you a little bit that there is some merit to this add-on. There's a lot of functionality. So let me take a step further, and now let's talk about doing operations on units. So an operation on a unit would be like adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and raising to a power, and we'll cover all of those cases in this video. So here I want to know what 10 leagues is plus 20 kilometers. Well, I could convert them first, find an extra spot for them in the worksheet, and then after I've converted them, add the converted quantities. However, why shouldn't you just be able to add them directly? And I'll show you that we can here. So using the LSQ add, let's type something wrong, LSQ add function, we can do just that. So this uses the same format. Type that in there, and we see that 10 leagues plus 20 kilometers is approximately equal to 13.6 leagues. So for addition and subtraction, the resultant unit is always the unit of the first supplied quantity. So leagues in this case. If we were to switch these around, so this is kilometers, you would see that the resultant unit would be in kilometers, and in fact this makes sense, right? 10 kilometers plus 20 kilometers is 30 kilometers. So we can use leagues here, and we can see that we get the result of the same operation in kilometers. Subtraction is the same thing. Here I have two units that should be pretty close together. If I were to tell someone how big is a mile in kilometers, I'd tell them 1.61 kilometers. So let's see exactly how close those are. So using the LSQ sub function, I can do the same thing here. and those together, and I can see, yeah, they're almost 0 miles between the difference between those two. Okay, next thing is multiplication and division. So when we multiply units and divide units, we end up with new resultant units. So with addition and subtraction, we always end up with the same units. With multiplication and division, we can end up with new units. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to use a commonly used volume measurement in the US, typically for the amount of water. And so this is an acre foot. So an acre is an area, if you're unfamiliar, and a foot is a length. And so if we multiply those together, we should get a volume, right? So if I had 1 foot of water sitting on 1 acre, that would be a certain volume of water. So let's go ahead and do the multiplication and see if that's what we get. So the multiplication function is q mult across, and our result is meters cubed, which is indeed a volume. So with multiply and divide, the resultant unit will always be given in the SI base. However, if you would like it in a different unit, we can chain that q convert function that we already saw together with us to get a different unit. So maybe I want to test this functionality and make sure that an acre foot actually is an acre foot. And here's one of those compound units I was telling you about earlier in the video. And so let's do LSQ convert first, because we want to convert to that acre feet. Let's do LSQ mult, because that's what we were doing before. And then, oh, it's not going to let me select. There we go. Mult, and then we're going to put it in, the resultant unit is in G17. So 1 acre times 1 foot is 1 acre foot, which we'd expect. Maybe we could use something obscure. So what's a hectare meter? Does anyone use a hectare meter? I tend to think that that's probably not a unit that's in common use, but the power of this add-on is you can use that unit if you want. If you have a hectare of land and you want to calculate the amount of water it takes to the volume of water that it takes to put it 1 meter of water on that hectare, you can use this, right? So on to division next, and here's one that is fun. If you're an electrical engineer like me, maybe you know the voltages and amps and stuff like that, and you can calculate. So if I have a voltage, 120 volts across a conductor, and I know that there's 0.5 amps flowing across that conductor, I can calculate the resistance of that conductor using the formula amount of voltage divided by the amperage, or the current, right? And the resultant unit of that should be ohm. I'm going to go ahead and delete this just for fun, and let's see what we do if we just do q div, which is the divide function, 120 volts times half an amp. Okay, so 240 kilograms meters squared amps squared seconds cubed. Oh, so this is actually the SI base unit for an ohm. However, we haven't explicitly converted it to that, so it's just going to tell us what the SI base unit is. And so this is actually the numerator, and this is the denominator. Sometimes you need, if you're following strict order of operations, you'd need a parentheses, but this is the notation that LegendSheet Units uses, and it's just anything after the divide sign is in the denominator. So let's make sure that that is actually an ohm, and let's do an explicit conversion, just like we did above. So equals LSQ convert We're going to chain those functions together again, ls q div, and then convert to ohms. And we can see that, yes, indeed, it is 240 ohms is the resistance of that conductor. Great. So that's consistent so far, and I think we've proved that this is pretty useful. So the next thing I'd want to look at is if we want to raise a unit to a power. So for instance, there's another formula that is used to calculate the characteristics of a circuit, and that would be V squared over R is equal to the amount of power that is dissipated in that conductor, right? And so let me correct these units here. We have 120 volts flowing over a resistor, conductor with a 240 ohm resistance, and I want to know the power. So now we need a power function, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and do the conversion first. So we're going to chain together a whole bunch of functions here. So lsq convert to watts, lsq div, that's the operation we're going to use, and then lsq pow is the new one that is going to just raise to a power. So 120 volts to the second power divided by 240 ohms and then converted to watts. And we can see we get 60 watts, which is the amount of power flowing through or being dissipated in that conductor. So really handy stuff, right? It does units for you, and we can do stuff if we had more complex units. So for instance, like a kiloohm here, and we have now 0.06 watts, or maybe I want to put it in milliwatt, so it makes more sense. So it's a little bit nicer to read. I can do that. I can do that directly in the sheet. And so this maybe have taken a little bit of brain power before, but now it's just automatic, which is what we want to not make mistakes, correct? I think so. Anyway. So the last thing that I'm going to go over in this video is you may have noticed that every Q function had a equivalent function that has a 2 appended to the end of it, and I'll show you what I mean. So now we have kind of a different format. So up to this point in the video, we've had magnitude and unit side by side, kind of conveniently, and I've glossed over what if we have something different. What if we have feet in the header? What if we don't exactly have that nice format? And so that's what those second version of every unit, every function is for. So ls underscore convert is we want to convert from these values in feet to inches. So let's do q convert vert. And so this one won't work because we need the unit side by side. So let's look at q convert 2. Okay, so this one allows us to separate the two. So I can do the value here, and then I can put in the conversion, the unit that we're converting from in C25, and the unit we're converting to in E25. And see, we can get, there we go. We get the value in feet to the value in foot, and we didn't have to have them side by side. Now, the one thing to note about this 2 version of the function is that they can't be as easily chained together as these ones can. So you can see we can just chain these together. So the 2 version can be the very inner one. So if I wanted to use qpow2 here instead, I could do that, right? And I would get the same answer. However, if I were to use it for either the qdiv or the qconvert step, that would it would not allow me to do that, and it would crash. So that's definitely more convenient, and usually you have to chain things together. So that's the one drawback to this type of function, but it's there in case you need it. And also, we could change this too and just see, what about yards? What about miles? What about meters? We can do all these conversions right away, and that makes it really handy, right? Okay, well, thank you very much for watching this video. So these add-ins are not currently available in the web store. They are making their way through the Google review process, which takes, in my experience, a very long time. I've been working on getting them through the Google review process for a while. They will eventually be in the web store or the add-on store, and you will be able to get them there. However, because I'm just trying to get this ball rolling and I'm trying to get people to use these, for a limited time, if you come there, I'm going to link to a Google group in the notes for this video. You can join that group, and say hi to me, make a post or make a question or say something. Maybe I'll make a thread for people that want access to this, and I will provide people that come to that group and interact and are interested and curious the insiders version of this. The insiders version is functionally exactly the same as the one that will eventually appear on the store. The only difference is it's completely free. You can use it as much as you want. You don't have to pay for it. And what I really kind of want people that have this insiders version to do is to participate in helping me create new features, reporting bugs. Complaints are totally welcome. Discussion. I need these things to make this a better product. So that's why you will be provided a free version of this, and you can have that for life. That'll be yours to have. So just visit the Google group, say hi, and I'll get that. Well, and thank you very much for your time, guys. Please rate, subscribe, comment as well. If you subscribe, there will be more videos coming describing more of the functionality of LegendSheet. And yeah, you will become sheet masters in no time. So thank you very much.